Okay, here we go. You have to be this tall to ride my Mercedes. Tons of good Nazi memes out there for World War II. Yellow lab, black lab, chocolate lab, and then in Temecula you have a meth lab. Funny stuff, huh? Be the kind of person your dog thinks you are. We still exist, Kmart. Pretty cool picture of U.S. soldiers getting a kiss before they leave. And we can skip this one this week. There, if you want, you can come back to it and you can pause the video and look at it right there and take a laugh or not. Okay, we got a lot to cover, so these are going to be pretty brief videos. I'd be sure to read the chapter 25 really well, maybe even twice. There's a ton of information in there. Stalinist and communist, Stalinist, Soviet Union, and Nazi Germany. Most of us probably think, oh, they're the same thing. They are not. Remember this, write it down. Nazis are not communist. Now, you'll hear in the movie and stuff, they might say National Socialism, but that was their way of describing Nazism, not in the sense of communism. Little meme at the bottom there is really good. That's why I don't do group work in class, right? Hitler, everyone knows who he is. He gets all the credit for being a bad guy, which he is, so write it down. A bad guy, there's no doubt. But Stalin and Mao are much terrible, more terrible people, but no one really knows that typically. Okay, so as you can see, remember this whole class has started off with what kind of governments? That's right, absolute dictatorial governments. We call them absolute kings and queens, emperors, sultans, absolute power. People had no rights. Then comes around the 1800s, the Enlightenment. What happens? Oh, we start to say, hey, you can enlighten people. They can think for themselves. They can do it. We try to tell the whole world that, in a way at least, not America, but people who buy into this. And what do? They start world wars. And what comes around at the end of the First World War? You got it, a reversal. So, next time you see people wearing spandex pants and bright orange and big sunglasses, things that we did in the 1980s and they're doing it in 2018, you'll realize history doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes. So you will see things happening again over and over. By 1939, only two major European powers are democratic. Only two. Remember, we've been telling since the 1800s and the French Revolution, the Enlightenment, everyone should be a democracy. People should have rights. They should think on their own. But by 1939, only two countries are left. And the best part is France is one of them. And as you've learned, if you've been following along and listening to the lectures, France is probably the worst example of a democracy that you could ever find. And Great Britain still has a constitutional monarchy. They have a constitution and a monarch. Figure that one out. Okay? Be sure to know the definition of fascism. It's right there. Again, I've got 4 lectures to do just for this chapter, so I'm going to go through them a little quickly while I'm talking here. If you need to, you can pause it and get the stuff off of there. But know what a totalitarianism is. Radical dictatorships that greatly extend the function and power of the central state. Fascism, Nazism, and communism all go in there. There's a big difference, though, between Nazism and communism. So the founder of modern fascism is Mussolini, not Hitler. Here's something else you should know. We're going to get it right out there. There are 3 of these guys that we focus on, Mussolini, Hitler, and Stalin. And you should know how all 3 of them come to power. All right? And as you can see in this slide, Mussolini is appointed by a Catholic king. Okay? And we'll just talk about it right now. I always do in class. How does Stalin come to power? As you're thinking, by force. He kills people. And Hitler, ready? Drum roll. Everyone, what are you going to say? Oh, he killed people. He comes no by force. No, it's incorrect. Adolf Hitler, write it down, is elected into the German government. That's correct. He is elected into the German government. Okay, most people don't know that. Now, why it's so ironic is because we think in our country, well, if you elect people, hey, the people have the right to say so. Well, Hitler was elected. Most of us would assume that he took power by force or in some nefarious way, but he does not. Okay? Keep that in mind. Italy is kind of like the Diet Coke of fascism. Sorry about that. I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but Mussolini is just kind of a tool, and he really doesn't pursue fascism in a huge sense. Okay? So totalitarianism. Remember, totalitarianism is the big name, right? That means what we talked about, radical dictatorships. And underneath them on the left and the right of the political spectrum are these different ones. Stalin would be on the left with communism, Nazi Germany on the right. Now, in case you don't know where the left and the right come from, and I didn't tell you in the other lecture, which I should have, I think I did though, you should know by now, it's from the French Revolution. If you supported the king, you sat on the right side. of the States General. If you supported the people, you sit on the left side. See, now do you understand why most college professors and elites are on the left? Because they feel that they're with the people. If you're on the right, you support the king. Simple, huh? Well, the big difference is, so everyone knows, what is the difference between communist and fascist? Stalin and Hitler. Well, it's quite large. But the three easiest things I'll point out to you are this. On the left, there is no religion. Religion is stamped out. Russia is the largest Christian country on the face of the earth. I'll repeat that. Russia is the largest Christian country on the face of the earth until the Russian Revolution, where they turned to the Soviet Union, and religion is banned. Is there religion in Nazi Germany? You better believe it. Now, many people I've had students say, well, they don't like Jews. Yeah, it's not Judaism, I would argue they don't like. It's Jews themselves. So they're not really out to destroy a religion. They're out to destroy a group of people. So religion, Protestants and Catholics are allowed under Nazi Germany. Private property. No, let's go there. Fine. Did the Nazis allow private property? You betcha. And the more pure Germans, as they see it, own the private property, the better. So they do discriminate, there's no doubt, against people. But if the right people, that's quotes, like right as they see it, have the property, totally fine. Private property, as long as you listen to us, the German government, the Nazis, you're fine. Stalinist communism, is there any private property? There's none. They seize it all. It's all then worked till you almost die, and then most of the profit is given to the state. And finally, the last one is private business. So when I'm teaching in class, I always ask students, tell me five, name me one. How about one really good Russian car that's out there? And 99% of the time, everyone's just silent and there's nothing. Well, name me just at least one good German car that's out there, right? We mean top of the line and all this. Mercedes, BMW, Audi, Porsche, Volkswagen, they're all there. Okay, and many would argue is the reason that is because private business is left to think on its own with the help and aid of the government, but to invent stuff. You do not see that in the Soviet Union. Here's Lenin and Trotsky. If you remember the Valentines, Leon Trotsky thinks you're Hotsky. They both, once Lenin dies, Trotsky and Stalin fight it out. Trotsky loses. He's later assassinated right near the end of the war by one of Stalin's operatives, I think in England, if I remember correctly. But Stalin wins it out. Stalin is a weird dude. That's all I can tell you. He's thrown out of, he wants to study to be a priest, which is kind of hilarious, as opposed to murdering people. But he takes over and he comes to power by force. So don't forget that. We have Stalin by force, Mussolini being appointed. Oh, if we were in class meeting together, I would tell you all these fabulous stories about his wife, his son, and his daughter. How about his son? His son's in the Russian army, the Soviet army. He's captured by the Germans. The story goes something like this. And the Germans say, we want a field marshal that you have of ours. Here's Stalin's son. And Stalin's son says, go to hell. You don't trade a field marshal for a private because his son's a private. Kill him. I don't care. Oh, man. How would you, I mean, daddy issues, hello. That's rough. And later, so after Stalin rejects him, he supposedly, the Germans say, grabs onto a electric fence. His daughter was a professor in University of Minnesota for years here in America, I think it was. And his wife, it's a little bit morbid, hard to do kind of online, but his wife actually commits suicide, if I remember correctly. And Stalin doesn't care at all. Okay, so pretty brutal being even around this guy. He is just tough. But there you can see he's Time Magazine Man of the Year, okay? Know about the 5 years plan. I'll leave it on here for just a few seconds, but know about it. The Soviet Union must industrialize, okay? They must come up. Remember, I've said that since the beginning of the class. Problem with Russia or the Soviet Union is it is not industrialized. It does not have the industrial capability, the power that the Germans do, or the rest of the world. It misses out on the Industrial Revolution. So, because they don't enlighten their people, that's the first thing. But they try here, and you can see all the results of it. So does it work? Yes, in a way. But does it work? No, it's a huge failure because they're still not ready for the German invasion. Okay? Collectivization, just know about it. It's where they collect all these people onto farms, and they farm little plots, and most of them starve to death, and the Russian government gets more rich. While vacation in France, Chuck Norris went out for a casual bike ride and accidentally won the Tour de France. And if you don't think history's amusing, you clearly haven't seen Adolf Hitler in shorts. There you go. Yeah, this one was a lot of fun. This was going around during the Trump election. Are you racist? No. Okay. I'm sorry, but I think that's funny. You know, it's just a funny way of people say that all the time. I'm not racist, but they do things. You're like, no, that's racist. Okay, Hitler. Here you go. He's born in Austria. Know that as soon as the idea was introduced, that all men were equal before God, that world was about to collapse, and he wants to remove the cancer of democracy from society. So Adolf Hitler has no belief in democracy. This world that he's grown up under, the Weimar Republic that's forced upon Germany in 1918, that says Germany will be a democracy. He sees nothing good about this. He moves on to Vienna to become an art student. Look up his art. It's pretty cool. Interesting that he was able to paint that well, but he is rejected. They go to Nuremberg. Be sure to know that. They have these massive rallies, and they persuade the German people because Germany is in dire straits after World War I. I'm sure you remember that from the reading. Most of you did really well on that, on the discussion boards. So what happens in 1923? It's called the Beer Hall Push. It's at this beer hall right here, the Hofbrauhaus, that I'll show you pictures of in a minute. And the Nazis try to overthrow the Weimar Republic. And here's where things get really interesting. So Hitler doesn't found the Nazi Party, but he does take it over, and they try to overthrow the government, and they're arrested, and he's thrown into jail. Now, everywhere around the world, what is the penalty for treason? Death. Why is he not killed? But it goes to show you the judges, the people in the Weimar Republic, for the most part, they tend to agree with Adolf Hitler. Yeah, this is a bad government. Germany's not a democracy. This is not good for us. Yet there's nothing that they can do about it, so they sentence him pretty lightly. And he's thrown in jail. He writes Mein Kampf. And remember Luther? Oh, remember Luther, how he's hidden up there by the German princes, and he translates the Bible and changes the world? Adolf Hitler does the same thing, I would argue, as an historian. He's locked away, held up there, writes this book, later is released, and changes the world. Definitely, not in a good way. Luther's up to you to decide. Lebensraum, be sure to know that. Living space for Germans. Where is it? Where can the Germans live? Look to the east, friend. That's all I can tell you. It's much like America's manifest destiny, how we look to the west, and the Indians must be annihilated. We don't say this, but we know deep down that's American policy, because Americans can put all this ground to use, farming, the rivers, everything with modern technology, and I hope you can see the connection I'm trying to make in this lecture. Not that it's right, it's just a reality. And the Germans look at it the same way. The largest country in the face of the earth, the western part of the Soviet Union, if I'm not correct, if farmed properly, notice that, properly, with the right amount of equipment, can feed the world over 2 times with what it grows there. Most of us think it is this big frozen land space. That's the eastern part of it. And the Germans know this about the West, and they want to control it. If they can control the Soviet Union, and it's theirs, there's living space for Germans to move out and expand, and Germany will be the largest country on the face of the earth. Germany will have influence. Germany will fight a war in Vietnam. Germany will get involved in Iraq and Afghanistan. Boom, I hope you see the connection there. Everyone will speak German in the world. See, as Americans, we can't even think of it. We're like, no, not a chance. Oh, it could have happened. Lucky for us, it didn't. There's the Hofbrauhaus. Wife and I, there's a picture of us at the Hofbrauhaus. Cool stuff. A little thing about beer. I don't mind talking about beer. All these guys right here, Adolf Coors, Adolf Anheuser, right, of Anheuser-Busch. And then, of course, Adolf Hitler, right? It's a very common name in Germany, even then. Oh, and there we are in Munich, I guess. I have some pictures of that. This is around 9 in the morning in München, right around the corner from where the Nazis tried to overthrow the government. The wife and I went there, and it's a big, we didn't go there for that reason, but it's a big old plaza and all this, and you have beers in the morning, eating schnitzels and all this. It's a good time. Okay? She's an amateur. I was destroying her. Okay? So there's part 1 of the lecture. We'll move on to the other part.